Cole Brennan's hands trembled as he pushed his entire stake across the whiskey-stained table. Everything he owned. 4 years of silence and grief, all for 3 women he'd never met. Behind Silas Blackwood they stood like ghosts. 3 Chinese girls with empty eyes and bruised wrists. The tall one held the smallest upright. The strong one's fists were clenched so tight her knuckles had gone white. Blackwood laughed. "You're betting your ranch for Chinese trash." Cole laid down his cards. "I'm betting on human beings. Call." The saloon stopped breathing. Stay with me to see how 1 grieving rancher and 3 desperate strangers became the family none of them expected. Hit that subscribe button and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. The summer heat pressed down on Silver Creek like a hand trying to smother it. July in Colorado meant dust that coated everything, air so dry it cracked your lips, and sunsets that looked like the whole world was on fire. Cole Brennan rode into town looking for whiskey and silence. 4 years since Margaret died in childbirth. 4 years since he'd buried his wife and the daughter he'd never hold. The ranch was doing fine. The horses were healthy. His heart was a hollow thing that pumped blood but felt nothing. The dusty trail saloon sat at the end of Main Street, windows glowing yellow against the purple dusk. Cole tied his mare Whisper to the hitching post and pushed through the swinging doors. The place smelled like tobacco sweat and bad decisions. He found a corner table, ordered whiskey, and prepared to spend the evening the way he spent most evenings, alone with his ghosts. "Mind if I join you?" Cole looked up. A man he didn't recognize stood there, well-dressed, with the kind of smile that meant he wanted something. Behind him, 2 rough-looking men watched the room like dogs waiting for scraps. "I mind," Cole said. The man sat down anyway. "Name's Silas Blackwood. Heard you're the best horse trainer in the territory." "I don't train horses for strangers." "Everything's negotiable." Blackwood signaled for drinks. "I'm a businessman. I recognize value when I see it. Your horses fetch top dollar in Denver. Your breeding stock is the envy of every rancher from here to Kansas." Cole drank his whiskey, said nothing. "I've also heard," Blackwood continued, lowering his voice, "that you're a man who knows when to take a risk, a man who plays cards." "I don't gamble." "Everyone gambles, Mr. Brennan. Some just pretend they don't." Blackwood smiled wider. "1 game. Stakes high enough to be interesting. What do you say?" Cole should have walked away, should have finished his drink and ridden back to his empty ranch. But something about Blackwood's arrogance made him want to watch the man lose. "1 game," Cole said. "Then you leave me alone." They moved to a larger table. The rough-looking men joined them, along with 2 locals Cole recognized. Pete Morrison from the feed store. James Holbrook, who ran cattle south of town. Both decent men who nodded respectfully at Cole. The first few hands were ordinary. Cole won, some lost, some didn't care much either way. The whiskey was doing its job, blurring the edges of his grief into something almost manageable. Then Blackwood raised the stakes. "Getting boring, gentlemen." He pulled a stack of bills from his coat. "Let's make this interesting." The amounts climbed. Pete folded, shaking his head. James stayed another round, then quit. Soon it was just Cole and Blackwood, the pot growing between them like something alive and hungry. "I'm going to need more than money." Blackwood reached into his jacket. "How about something unique?" He laid papers on the table, official-looking documents covered in stamps and signatures. "What are those?" Cole asked. "Indenture contracts." Blackwood's smile turned ugly. 3 Chinese girls I acquired in Sacramento. Legal and binding. They work off their debt, I get my investment back. Simple business. Cole's blood went cold. "You're betting people." "I'm betting contracts, legal property." Blackwood waved a hand toward the back of the saloon. "Bruno, bring them out." One of the rough men disappeared through a back door. He returned moments later dragging a rope. 3 women followed, wrists bound together, stumbling in a line. The saloon went quiet. Cole had seen a lot of things in his 38 years. War, death, the kind of cruelty that men inflicted when they thought no one was watching. But something about these three women hit him like a fist to the chest. The first one was tall, maybe mid-20s, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that cataloged every thread in the room. She held herself like a queen forced to walk through mud. Not broken. Not yet. The second was shorter, built strong, with scarred hands and a jaw set hard enough to cut glass. She kept her body angled to protect the third. The third was barely more than a girl, 19 maybe. Small and pale, swaying on her feet like a sapling in wind. Her eyes were glassy with fever. Someone should have put her to bed days ago. Nobody had. "They don't look like much," Blackwood said carelessly, "but the tall one speaks English. Good with numbers. The strong one works hard. And the little one's pretty enough, I suppose. Probably won't survive the summer, though. She's been coughing since I bought her." The tall woman's eyes met Cole's, just for a second, long enough for him to see the intelligence there, the calculation, the desperate, exhausted hope she was trying not to feel. "I want them off the table," Cole said, his voice coming out rough. "They're the best thing on the table." Blackwood leaned back, enjoying himself. "Worth more than that gold watch you put up, I'd wager. Worth more than your horse outside. Maybe even worth that pretty little ranch you've got sitting empty." "It's not empty." "No. Just you rattling around in it, that what Margaret would have wanted." The name hit Cole like a slap. He felt Pete and James shift uncomfortably. The whole town knew about Margaret. The whole town had offered their useless condolences and then moved on with their lives. "Don't speak her name," Cole said quietly. Touched a nerve. Blackwood's eyes glittered. "Here's my offer. One hand. Winner takes all. My contract's against your ranch deed. Unless you don't have the backbone for it." "Cole." Pete's voice was worried. "Walk away. This isn't worth it." He was right. Of course he was right. The smart thing was to collect what was left of his stake ride home through the dark. Let Blackwood do whatever men like him did with their human merchandise. But Cole looked at the three women again. The tall one had positioned herself slightly in front of the others, protecting them with her body, even though she had no weapon, no power, nothing but the stubborn refusal to let harm reach them without going through her first. The strong one had taken the sick girl's weight, holding her upright with an arm around her waist. Gentle, careful, the kind of tenderness that spoke of months or years of protecting each other. And the sick one, eyes closed now, was mouthing something. Words in a language Cole didn't speak. Maybe a prayer, maybe a name, maybe just the sound of someone who'd given up on rescue and was saying goodbye to hope. Cole thought about Margaret, about the daughter they'd planned to name Rose, about all the empty rooms in his house and the silence that waited for him every night. "I call," he said. Blackwood's grin widened. "Now we're talking." The dealer shuffled. Cards flew across the table. Cole picked up his hand, kept his face blank. 3 queens, 2 tens, full house. Blackwood studied his own cards, his smile not wavering. "All in." "Already am." The moment stretched. Cole could hear the sick girl's labored breathing, could feel the tall one's gaze burning into him, could smell the sweat and desperation and summer heat pressing down on all of them. Blackwood laid his cards down one at a time. Jack of spades, Jack of hearts, 8 of clubs, 8 of diamonds, Ace of spades, 2 pair, Jacks and 8s. The dead man's hand. The same cards Wild Bill Hickok held when he was shot in the back. "Full house," Cole said, and turned his cards over. Silence. Then Blackwood's face went from confident to furious in the space of a heartbeat. He shot to his feet, chair crashing behind him. "You cheated." "I won fair." Cole stood slowly. "Everyone here saw it. The contracts. Now." "You son of a—" "The contracts." Cole's hand moved to rest on the pistol at his hip. "Or we can settle this another way." The 2 rough men stepped forward, but Pete and James were already on their feet flanking Cole. 3 armed witnesses against a stranger's hired muscle. Blackwood's eyes darted around the room, calculating odds, finding them unfavorable. Fine. He spat the word, threw the contracts onto the table. Take them. Take the whole useless lot. When they run off or steal from you or burn your place down, don't come crying to me. He stormed toward the door, his men following. At the threshold, he turned back. This isn't over, Brennan. You've made yourself an enemy tonight. Wouldn't be my first. Blackwood disappeared into the darkness. The saloon remained silent for a long moment. Then conversations resumed quieter than before, everyone pretending they hadn't just witnessed something that would be gossip for months. Cole gathered the contracts without looking at them. 3 pieces of paper that said he owned 3 human beings. The thought made him sick. He turned to face the women. They hadn't moved, still roped together, still standing in that protective formation, still watching him with eyes that expected nothing good. I'm going to untie you now, Cole said, keeping his voice calm. Then we'll figure out what comes next. He approached slowly, the way he approached spooked horses. No sudden movements, hands visible, making himself as unthreatening as a 6-foot man with a gun on his hip could be. The tall woman stepped forward, putting herself between him and the others. You win us, she said. Her English was careful, accented, but clear. We go with you now. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact, a surrender to circumstances she couldn't control. I'm not taking you anywhere you don't want to go. Cole pulled out his knife saw. All 3 women flinch and cursed himself for not thinking. Just cutting the ropes, that's all. He cut them free. The rough hemp fell away, revealing raw red skin underneath. These ropes had been tight. These women had been cargo. My name is Cole Brennan, he said. I've got a ranch about 10 miles east of here. You're welcome to stay there while we sort things out. But I'm not forcing you. The tall woman studied him. Her dark eyes moved over his face, his posture, his hands. Looking for the trick, looking for the danger. What you want from us? She asked finally. Right now, I want to get you somewhere safe. Somewhere you can rest, eat, get medical attention for your friend there. He nodded toward the small one, who was barely conscious now. After that, we figure out the rest. You not want... The woman paused, searching for words. Service. The implication made Cole's stomach turn. No. His voice came out harder than he intended. I'm not that kind of man. I don't want anything from you except to know you're safe. Why? The question was raw, desperate. You pay too much. Full house against 2 pair. You could have just folded. Let us go with Blackwood. Why you risk everything? Cole thought about it. Really thought about it. Because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't, he said finally. Because you're people, not property. Because somewhere someone probably cares about you, and I'd want someone to help them if our situations were reversed. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back furiously. I am Grace, she said. Grace Chen. This is Pearl. She gestured to the strong one. And this is Lily. The sick one. We were. She shook her head. We are whatever you say now. Your guests, Cole said firmly. For as long as you need to be. Now let's get you out of here before Blackwood changes his mind. They moved through the saloon, everyone pretending not to watch. Pete caught Cole's arm at the door. You sure about this? No, Cole admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. Outside, the summer night had cooled slightly. Stars scattered across the sky like thrown salt. Cole's mare waited patiently at the hitching post. I've only got 1 horse, he said. Lily rides. The rest of us walk. We can walk, Grace said immediately. We have walked farther than 10 miles. Not tonight. Lily needs a doctor and there's one on the way to my ranch. We'll stop there first. He lifted Lily onto Whisper's back. The girl weighed almost nothing. When was the last time she'd eaten a real meal? When was the last time anyone had taken care of her? "Hold on to the saddle," Cole told her gently. "We're going to get you help." Lily's eyes focused on him for the first time. She said something in Chinese, her voice barely above a whisper. Grace translated. "She says she is too much trouble. She says leave her here. Find someone else to take her." "No one's leaving anyone." Cole started walking, leading Whisper by the reins. "Tell her that." They moved through Silver Creek's quiet streets. A few lights glowed in windows. Someone was playing piano badly in one of the other saloons. The sound followed them until they reached the edge of town. Dr. Henry Lin's house sat on the eastern outskirts, a modest building with a sign in both English and Chinese characters. Cole knocked on the door, hoping the doctor was still awake. The door opened to reveal a slight man in his 50s, wire-rimmed glasses perched on his nose, a book in one hand. "Mr. Brennan." Dr. Lin's eyebrows rose. "This is unexpected." "I need your help, doctor. I've got a young woman here who's sick, fever, trouble breathing. She needs attention tonight." Dr. Lin's gaze moved past Cole to the three women. His expression shifted from surprise to understanding to professional concern. "Bring her inside," he said, stepping back. "Quickly." The next hour passed in a blur of medical examination, quiet conversation in Chinese, and instructions Cole couldn't follow. Grace stayed at Lily's side, translating Dr. Lin's questions and Lily's weak responses. Pearl stood guard at the door, watching the darkness outside, as if expecting Blackwood to appear at any moment. Finally, Dr. Lin emerged from the examination room. "Pneumonia," he said. "Not advanced yet, but concerning. She needs rest, proper food, and medicine. I can provide the medicine. The rest is up to whoever's caring for her." "That would be me," Cole said. Dr. Lin studied him for a long moment. "I heard about the poker game. The whole town heard about the poker game. You understand what you've done? I understand I kept 3 women from being sold like horses. You've also made yourself a target. Blackwood isn't the kind of man who forgets a grudge. And the town—" Dr. Lin shook his head. "They won't be kind about this. Let them talk. Talk is the least of what they'll do." The doctor's voice was gentle but firm. "You're a good man, Mr. Brennan. I've known that since you brought your wife to me when she was sick. Good men often suffer for their goodness. Then I'll suffer, but I won't abandon these women to make my life easier." Something like respect flickered across Dr. Lin's face. "I'll prepare the medicines. Miss Chen knows how to administer them. And Mr. Brennan—" He paused. "They're fortunate you were at that saloon tonight. Whatever happens next, remember that." They left an hour later, Lily still on horseback, but more alert now, the medicine already taking effect. The night had deepened into something vast and quiet, the kind of darkness that made you feel small and significant all at once. Cole walked beside Whisper, leading the way. Grace walked on the other side, her hand resting on Lily's leg to keep her steady. Pearl brought up the rear, her eyes scanning the darkness with the watchfulness of someone who'd learned that safety was never guaranteed. "How far is your ranch?" Grace asked. "About 8 miles now." "We have walked farther." "So you said." Cole glanced at her. "You've been traveling a while." 2 months since we leave China. 6 weeks since we learn our contracts are lies." Grace's voice was flat. 4 weeks since Blackwood buy us from the man who buy us from the man who lied to us. Tell me." She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her words came slowly, as if each one cost her something. "My father was merchant in Guangzhou, very successful. Then his partner betrayed him, took everything. My mother died from grief. My father disappeared. I had 2 younger brothers." Her voice caught. "They were sold to work camps. I never see them again." "Grace, I sign contract because man say I can work in America, send money home, maybe bring my brothers here someday. Maybe find my father." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The contract was lie. Everything was lie. But by then, I was on ship, with no way to go back." "And Pearl Lily." Pearl's family is farmers, very poor. She sold herself so they could buy medicine for her father. Lily's family make traditional medicine. Her parents died in epidemic. She was alone, no protection, and men came with contracts that promised work. All lies. All lies. Grace looked at him. So you see, Mr. Brennan, why we do not trust. Why we cannot believe when you say you want nothing. Every man who say he want nothing has wanted something. Every promise has been broken. I can't speak for other men, Cole said. I can only tell you what I'm offering. A safe place to stay. Food. Time to heal. After that, you decide what you want to do. Stay, leave, go somewhere else. The choice is yours. And the contracts? Papers don't make people property. I don't care what they say. They make us property in eyes of law. Then we'll figure out how to change that. Cole met her gaze. I don't have all the answers, Grace. I'm just trying to do what's right. They walked in silence for a while. The moon rose higher, painting the landscape silver gray. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. You lost your wife, Grace said suddenly. Cole's chest tightened. Word travels. Dr. Lin mentioned. He says you were different after. Closed, alone. That's about right. I understand this. Grace's voice softened. When my mother died, I became hollow. Like everything inside me was gone, and only the outside remained. Going through motions of living without actually living. Cole said nothing, but he felt the truth of her words in his bones. Maybe, Grace continued, that is why you help us. Not because you are a hero, but because you are also broken, and broken people sometimes recognize each other. Maybe. They crested a hill, and Cole's ranch spread out below them. The main house solid and dark. The barn, the paddocks, the smaller cabin he'd built for hired hands who'd never come. All of it silent and waiting. There it is, Cole said. Home. Grace studied it for a moment. It is beautiful. It's empty. The words came out before he could stop them. Been empty for 4 years. Perhaps, Grace said quietly. It does not have to stay empty. They made their way down the hill. Cole settled Lily in the spare cabin with Grace and Pearl arranging blankets and pillows. He brought water, food, and instructions about the medicine. Then he stood in the doorway, suddenly unsure of himself. I'll be in the main house if you need anything, he said. The door locks from the inside. I won't come in unless you invite me. Grace looked at him. Really looked at him the way she'd been looking at him all night. Measuring, calculating, trying to find the danger hidden behind the kindness. Why do you lock door? She asked. Because it's your space, not mine. But you own this place. You own... She gestured at the contracts he'd tucked into his shirt pocket. Those papers don't mean what they say. Cole pulled them out, looked at them, felt the disgust rise in his throat. I should burn these right now. No. Grace's voice was sharp. Do not burn them. Why not? Because they are only protection we have. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Without contracts, we are illegal immigrants. No papers, no rights, nothing to prove we belong anywhere. With contracts, at least we have, how do you say, documentation, legal standing. Cole hadn't thought of that. The contracts were obscene, but they were also proof of existence. Evidence that these women were here legally, even if the terms of their presence were monstrous. All right, he said. I'll keep them safe. But they don't define what we are to each other. Understand? Grace nodded slowly. I am beginning to. Cole turned to leave, then stopped. Grace. The door locks from the inside. But even if it didn't, I wouldn't cross that threshold without your permission. That's a promise. He walked back to his own cabin. Inside, the silence waited like it always did. Margaret's chair by the fire. Margaret's books on the shelf. Margaret's wedding photograph on the mantel. her smile frozen in time, forever young, forever gone. Cole sat down heavily. What had he done? Brought 3 strangers onto his land. People he couldn't talk to, couldn't understand, couldn't protect from a world that would judge them for existing. He was a rancher, not a savior. He fixed fences and trained horses and lived quiet. This was complicated. This was dangerous. This would bring trouble from town, from neighbors, from everyone who thought they knew better. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Grace positioning herself to protect the others. Saw Pearl's scarred hands and fierce loyalty. Saw Lily mouthing prayers in a language he didn't speak. He'd made his choice. Now he'd live with it. In the spare cabin, Grace sat beside Lily's bed, watching the sick girl's breathing finally ease into peaceful sleep. Pearl had taken the other bunk, her eyes closed, but her body tense, ready to wake at the first sign of danger. "Do we trust him?" Pearl asked in Cantonese, not opening her eyes. Grace considered the question. Trust was a luxury they'd lost somewhere between Guangzhou and this Colorado wilderness. Every man who'd offered help had wanted something. Every promise had been a prelude to betrayal. But Cole Brennan had looked at them like they were people. Not property, not opportunities, not problems to be solved or bodies to be used. Just people who needed help. "I don't know," Grace admitted. "But he is different from the others. I feel it." "Feeling can be wrong." "Yes, but sometimes feeling is all we have." Grace touched Lily's forehead. The fever was lower now. The medicine was working. "We watch. We stay alert. We protect each other. But maybe we also give him chance to prove himself. And if he proves dangerous, then we run. We disappear into these mountains and find another way to survive." Grace looked toward the door, where a lock she could control separated them from the outside world. "But I do not think we will need to run. Not from him." Pearl was quiet for a moment. "You like him." "I notice him," Grace corrected. "There is difference." "Is there?" Grace didn't answer. Outside, the summer night wrapped around the ranch like a blanket. Stars wheeled overhead. Crickets sang in the dry grass. And somewhere in the darkness, a future was taking shape that none of them could have predicted. 3 women who'd lost everything. 1 man who'd stopped living after losing the same. And a wager that had changed all their destinies. The cards had fallen. The hand was played. Now they all had to figure out what came next. Cole woke before dawn out of habit. 4 years of grief hadn't changed that. He dressed in the dark, pulled on boots worn soft from use, and stepped outside into air that already promised heat. The spare cabin sat quiet across the clearing. No smoke from the chimney. No movement behind the windows. For a moment, he wondered if they'd left in the night. If they'd decided that freedom in the wilderness was safer than trusting a stranger. Then the door opened. Grace stood in the threshold, her hair loose around her shoulders, her eyes sharp despite the early hour. She'd been awake, watching, waiting to see what the morning would bring. "You're up early," Cole said. "I do not sleep well in new places." "Fair enough." He gestured toward the main house. "Coffee's on. You're welcome to it." Grace hesitated, that careful calculation again, weighing the risk of accepting against the risk of refusing. "I will wake the others first," she said finally. "Lily needs medicine." "How is she?" "Better. The fever is lower." Grace paused. "Thank you, for the doctor, for everything." "Don't thank me yet. We've got a long way to go." He left her to tend to Lily and Pearl, focusing on his own morning routine. Feeding the horses, checking the water troughs. The work settled him, gave his hands purpose, while his mind churned through problems he had no solutions for. 3 people depending on him now. 3 people who needed things he wasn't sure he could provide. An hour later, Grace appeared at the barn door. "Lily is resting," she said. "Pearl is with her. I want to help." You don't have to work. I want to. Her chin lifted. We are not charity. We earn our place. Cole recognized that stubborn pride. He'd felt it himself after Margaret died, when everyone in town tried to help, and all he wanted was to be left alone with his grief. All right, he said. Can you handle horses? I can learn. He showed her the basics. How to approach without spooking them. How to check hooves for stones. How to read their body language for signs of distress. Grace absorbed everything with intense concentration, asking questions that revealed a quick mind. You learn fast, Cole observed. I learn what I must to survive. They worked side by side through the morning. The sun climbed higher, turning the air thick and heavy. Cole found himself talking more than he had in years, explaining the ranch operations, the breeding program, the contracts he had with buyers in Denver. You sell horses to Denver? Grace asked. Mostly. The buyers there pay better than the local stockyard. How much better? Maybe 15–20%. Grace frowned. Then why you also sell to local stockyard? Convenience. Denver's a 2-day ride. 2 days for 20% more profit. She shook her head. This is bad business. Cole stopped what he was doing. You sound like you know something about business. My father was merchant. I kept his book since I was 12 years old. Grace's voice carried old pain. Numbers do not lie. Numbers do not betray. They are same in any language. You kept books, accounts, inventory, profit and loss. She met his eyes. I can help with this if you let me. I see your desk through window. Many papers, no organization. This costs you money. Cole thought about the chaos of his financial records. The receipts stuffed in drawers. The invoices he'd lost track of. The vague sense that he was losing money somewhere, but never having the time or energy to figure out where. All right, he said. After lunch you can look at the books. But don't expect miracles. I've been letting things slide for a while. How long is while? 4 years. Grace's eyes widened. 4 years of no proper books. I've been distracted. She didn't ask by what. She already knew. They broke for lunch when the heat became unbearable. Cole brought food to the spare cabin where Pearl sat beside Lily's bed, the sick girl finally sleeping peacefully. She ate this morning, Pearl said in halting English. Small amount, but she ate. That's good. That's progress. Pearl studied him with the same careful assessment Grace had shown. You are a strange man. So I've been told. Most men want something. You say you want nothing. Pearl's scarred hands folded in her lap. I do not understand this. Maybe there's nothing to understand. Maybe I just don't want to see people suffer when I can help. This is not how world works. Maybe it should be. Pearl was quiet for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. Just a small curve of her lips, but it transformed her face from guarded to almost warm. Grace says you have horses, she said. Many horses. About 30 head right now. Breeding stock mostly. I like horses. In China I see them sometimes. Big and beautiful. Pearl's eyes lit up with something like longing. Maybe I can help with horses. You ever ridden? No, but I learn fast. Like Grace. Cole thought about it. He could use help with the horses. The breeding season was coming up, and he'd been managing alone for too long. We'll start tomorrow, he said. If Lily's doing better. She will be better. Pearl's voice carried absolute certainty. She is stronger than she looks. We all are. After lunch, Grace settled at Cole's desk with the ranch ledgers. Within an hour, her expression had shifted from focused to horrified. This is disaster, she announced. Cole looked up from the harness he was mending. That bad. You lose money on every cattle sale for 3 years. Your feed supplier overcharges by 15%. You have outstanding invoices you never collected. Grace held up a stack of papers. You also have no record of expenses for entire months. Where does this money go? I don't know. I stopped paying attention. Stopped paying. Grace closed her eyes visibly, gathering patience. Mr. Brennan, Cole, you have good ranch, good horses, good land, but your business is bleeding money because you do not care enough to stop the bleeding. I had other things on my mind. Your wife. Yes, I understand grief. Grace's voice softened slightly. But grief does not pay bills. Grief does not feed horses. You must choose to live even when living is hard. The words hit harder than she probably intended. Cole set down the harness. You're right, he said quietly. I've been going through the motions, surviving instead of living. Then we change this. Grace picked up a fresh ledger. I will fix your books, create new system, show you where money goes and where it should come from. But you must promise to pay attention, to care about your own life. That's a big promise. It is necessary promise. Grace met his eyes. We cannot build future with someone who has given up on present. Cole held her gaze. Something passed between them in that moment. An understanding, a recognition of shared brokenness and the possibility of shared healing. All right, he said. I promise. They were interrupted by the sound of hoofbeats, fast, urgent, coming up the road to the ranch. Cole grabbed his rifle and stepped outside. Grace followed, her body tense with alarm. A woman on horseback came into view. Blonde hair coming loose from its pins, a face tight with worry and anger. Cole's stomach dropped. Lucy! His sister dismounted before her horse fully stopped. She strode toward him with the kind of fury that only family could generate. Cole Brennan, have you lost your mind? Nice to see you too. Don't! Lucy jabbed a finger at his chest. Don't you dare joke with me. I just spent an hour listening to Mrs. Henderson tell everyone in town that my brother has set up a Chinese brothel on his ranch. That's not... I know it's not true, but they don't know that, and they don't care to find out. Lucy's voice cracked. Cole, what were you thinking? Winning women in a poker game, bringing them here. Do you have any idea what people are saying? I don't care what people are saying. Well, I care. Tears spilled down Lucy's cheeks. I care because you're my brother. Because you're the only family I have left since Daniel died. Because I've spent 4 years watching you disappear into yourself, and now you've done something that's going to make everyone in town turn against you. Cole pulled his sister into a hug. She resisted for a moment, then collapsed against him, sobbing. I'm sorry, he said. I should have told you first. I should have explained. Explained what? That you've become some kind of crusader for Chinese immigrants. Explained that I saw 3 women being treated like animals, and I couldn't walk away. Lucy pulled back, wiping her eyes. For the first time, she noticed Grace standing in the doorway. This is one of them. This is Grace Chen. Grace, my sister Lucy. Grace stepped forward, her posture formal. Mrs. Lucy, I apologize for trouble we cause. You haven't. Lucy stopped, took a breath, really looked at Grace for the first time. You speak English? Yes, not perfect but enough. And you're staying here, working? We work to earn our place. Your brother gives us shelter. We give him help with ranch. Grace's chin lifted. We are not what people say. We are not entertainment. We are workers, survivors, human beings. Something shifted in Lucy's expression. The anger didn't disappear, but it made room for something else. Curiosity, maybe even reluctant respect. There are 3 of you, Lucy asked. Yes, my friends Pearl and Lily. Lily is sick but getting better. Sick with what? Pneumonia. Dr. Lin treated her last night. Lucy glanced at Cole. You brought Dr. Lin into this? He's the best doctor in the territory. He's also Chinese, so people will say you're choosing sides. I am choosing sides, Cole's voice hardened. I'm choosing the side that treats people like people instead of property. If that makes me unpopular, so be it. Lucy was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned back to Grace. I own a dress shop in town, she said. Small, but it does good business. I've been looking for someone to help with the books. The numbers get confusing. Grace's eyes widened. You offer me work? I'm offering to consider it. After I meet the others. After I see for myself what's really going on here. Lucy looked at her brother. I'm not saying I approve. I'm saying I'm willing to understand before I judge. That's more than most people would offer. I'm not most people. I'm your sister. Lucy managed a watery smile. And apparently, I'm the only sensible person in this family. She stayed for dinner, met Pearl, who impressed her with quiet strength and fierce loyalty, met Lily, who was awake now and recovering her gentle manner and knowledge of herbal medicine, winning Lucy over completely. She knows more about treating fever than half the doctors in Denver, Lucy admitted as they sat around the table in the main house. Where did she learn that? Her grandmother was healer in China, Grace translated. Traditional medicine, very old knowledge. The town could use someone like that. Half the women here are scared to death of Dr. Lin just because he's Chinese and the other doctor is a drunk who can't tell measles from chickenpox. People would accept Chinese healer, Pearl asked skeptically. Maybe not at first, but when their children are sick and the drunk doctor is useless. Lucy shrugged. Desperation has a way of overcoming prejudice. After dinner, Lucy pulled Cole aside. I'm still angry with you, she said, but I understand now. A little. That's all I ask. Those women have been through hell. I can see it in their eyes. Lucy touched his arm. Don't hurt them, Cole. Don't make promises you can't keep. I won't. And don't hurt yourself either. Her voice softened. Margaret would want you to live again. Really live. Not just exist. Everyone keeps telling me that. Because it's true. Lucy kissed his cheek. I'll be back in a few days. Try not to start any more scandals before then. After she left, Cole found Grace sitting on the porch of the spare cabin watching the stars. Your sister is good person, Grace said. She was angry, but she listened. Not many people listen. Lucy's stubborn. Once she decides someone deserves a chance, she doesn't give up on them. This is valuable quality. Grace was quiet for a moment. She said something interesting. About Margaret wanting you to live again. Cole sat down beside her. Not too close, maintaining the careful distance they'd established. Margaret was my wife. She died 4 years ago. Childbirth. The baby didn't make it either. The words still hurt, but somehow less than they had yesterday. I've been stuck since then. Going through motions but not really present. I understand this. Grace's voice was soft. When my mother died, I became ghost of myself. Present but not alive. It took long time to feel anything again. How did you come back? I did not choose to come back. Life forced me. She gestured at the ranch around them. Pearl and Lily needed me. Survival needed me. I could not afford to stay dead inside when people depended on me. And now I am beginning to feel things again. Small things. The satisfaction of work. The comfort of safety. Grace turned to look at him. The possibility that maybe not all men are monsters. I'm no hero, Grace. I do not need hero. Heroes are for stories. She stood brushing off her skirt. I need partner. Someone who will treat me with respect and work beside me toward common goal. This is more valuable than any hero. She went inside, leaving Cole alone with the stars and the weight of her words. Partner. The word sat strange in his chest. He hadn't thought of himself as anyone's partner since Margaret. Hadn't wanted to be. The risk of loss was too great, the potential for pain too overwhelming. But Grace wasn't asking for love. She was asking for respect. for cooperation, for the chance to build something together without the pressure of romance or the expectation of forever. Maybe that was something he could offer. The next morning brought trouble Cole should have expected. He was working with Pearl in the corral, showing her how to approach the horses, when 3 riders appeared on the road. Local men. Tom Garrett, who ran cattle west of town. His 2 sons, big and mean and looking for a fight. "Brennan," Garrett's voice carried across the clearing. "We need to talk." Cole handed the lead rope to Pearl. "Stay here. Don't say anything." He walked to meet the riders, keeping his posture relaxed, but his hand near his pistol. "Garrett, something I can help you with." "You can help by getting rid of those Chinese whores you're keeping." Cole's jaw tightened. "They're not whores. They're workers." "That's not what we heard." One of the sons, Billy, spat tobacco juice into the dirt. "We heard you won them in a card game. We heard you're running some kind of oriental pleasure house out here." "You heard wrong." "Did we?" The other son, Jake, urged his horse closer. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've got 3 young Chinese girls living on your property. That ain't proper, Brennan. That ain't decent." "Since when do you care about proper or decent?" Cole kept his voice even. "I've seen how you treat the men who work for you. Seen the bruises on their faces when they come to town for supplies." Garrett's face reddened. "That's different." "Is it because it seems to me you're awful concerned about how I treat my workers when you beat yours bloody for looking at you wrong? You watch your mouth. You watch yours." Cole stepped forward, and something in his expression made all 3 riders pull back slightly. "These women are under my protection. They're here legally with documentation. Anyone who threatens them threatens me. And I promise you, Garrett, you don't want me as an enemy." Garrett's hands flexed on the reins. His sons exchanged glances, uncertain. "This ain't over," Garrett said finally. "The town's talking. People are making plans. Let them talk. Let them plan." Cole held the man's gaze. "But if anyone comes on my property looking for trouble, they'll find it." The riders turned and left, kicking up dust as they went. Cole watched until they disappeared, then turned back to the corral. Pearl stood exactly where he'd left her, the lead rope in her hands, a strange expression on her face. "You defended us," she said. "Of course I did." "They were 3 men, with guns. You are 1 man. Numbers don't matter when you're fighting for what's right." Pearl was quiet for a long moment. Then she did something Cole didn't expect. She smiled. A real smile, bright and warm and full of something that looked almost like hope. "I think," she said carefully, "maybe I was wrong about you." "Wrong how?" "I thought you were like other men. Kind on surface, but cruel underneath." Pearl shook her head. "But you are kind all the way through. Like horse that looks wild but is gentle when you earn trust." Cole felt something crack in his chest, something that had been frozen for 4 years. "I'm not that good," he said roughly. "You are better than you think." Pearl turned back to the horses. "Now, show me more about these beautiful animals. I want to learn everything." That evening, Grace found Cole in the barn brushing down Whisper after the day's work. "Pearl told me what happened," she said, "with the men from town. Word travels fast. She also told me what you said, that anyone who threatens us threatens you." Grace stepped closer. "You know, this will make your life difficult." "My life was already difficult. At least now it's difficult for a good reason." Grace reached out and touched his arm, just briefly, just enough to make him freeze. "Thank you," she said, "for defending us, for treating us like we matter." "You do matter." "Many people would disagree." "Many people are wrong." Cole set down the brush, turning to face her fully. "Grace, I meant what I said that first night. You're not property. Those contracts don't define what we are to each other. I want you to stay because you want to stay, not because some paper says you have to." And if I want to stay? The question hung in the air between them. Then you stay, Cole said quietly. For as long as you want. However you want. No expectations. No demands. Grace's eyes searched his face, looking for the lie, looking for the trap, finding neither. I believe you, she said finally. I do not know why, but I believe you. That's a start. Yes. Grace smiled, small but real. It is a start. She left him alone in the barn with the horses and the fading light and the strange, unfamiliar feeling of hope taking root in his chest. 3 women who'd lost everything. 1 man who'd stopped living. And something growing between them that none of them had names for yet. 2 weeks passed. The summer heat refused to break, pressing down on the ranch like a hand trying to smother everything beneath it. But inside that pressure, something was growing. Lily recovered fully by the 8th day, her strength returning with each carefully prepared meal and each dose of medicine. By the 10th day, she was helping Cole with the garden, identifying plants he'd never known the names of and explaining their healing properties. This one, she said, pointing to a scraggly herb near the fence, is very good for headache. Your wife planted it. Margaret, yes. Cole crouched beside her. She knew about herbs too. She was wise woman. Lily touched the plant gently. I can make this grow stronger. Make more medicine for when winter comes. I'd like that. Pearl had taken to the horses like she'd been born in a saddle. Within days, she could ride better than men who'd been doing it their whole lives. She had a gift, Cole realized, an instinct for understanding what the animals needed for earning their trust through patience and respect. She is natural, Grace observed, watching Pearl work a young stallion in the corral. In China, women do not ride. Here she is free to become what she always was. And you? Cole asked. What are you becoming? Grace smiled, that rare, careful smile that transformed her face. I am becoming someone I thought I had lost forever. The books were pristine now. Grace had reorganized everything, created systems that made sense, identified losses Cole had been absorbing for years without realizing. She'd already increased his projected profits by 30%, just by cutting unnecessary expenses and renegotiating supplier contracts. You're wasted as a bookkeeper, Cole told her one evening. You should be running a business empire. Maybe someday I will. Grace closed the ledger. For now, I am happy making your ranch profitable. It is good practice. Lucy came by every few days bringing fabric and thread and news from town. The gossip hadn't stopped, but it had shifted. People were still talking, but some of them were starting to ask questions. Curious questions instead of condemning ones. Mrs. Patterson's daughter has a fever that won't break, Lucy announced during one visit. The drunk doctor gave her some useless tonic. She asked me if it was true you had a Chinese healer on your property. Lily's eyes widened. She wants my help. She wants her daughter to get better. Right now, she doesn't care who makes that happen. I can try, but I need to see the girl first. Cole shook his head. It's not safe. People in town can wait. Lucy's voice was firm. A child is sick. Lily can help. That matters more than what the gossips think. They went together the next morning. Cole, Lily, and Lucy riding into Silver Creek like a declaration of war against prejudice. The stairs followed them down Main Street. The whispers buzzed like angry hornets. Mrs. Patterson's house was small and neat, with curtains drawn against the morning sun. The woman who answered the door looked like she hadn't slept in days. You came, she breathed. I didn't think you would. Where is she? Lily asked quietly. The girl was 7 years old. Emma. Burning with fever, delirious, crying for her mother, even though her mother sat right beside her. The drunk doctor's tonic sat untouched on the bedside table. Lily examined her carefully, checked her throat, her ears, the rash spreading across her chest. Scarlet fever, she said finally. Very dangerous, but I can help. I need willow bark, elderflower, yarrow. Fresh if possible. Do you have garden? Yes. Out back. Show me. Within an hour, Lily had prepared a tea that brought Emma's fever down 2 degrees. Within 2 hours, the girl was sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. By sunset, she was asking for food. Mrs. Patterson wept. "Thank you," she sobbed, clutching Lily's hands. "Thank you. I thought I was going to lose her." "She will need more medicine tomorrow," Lily said gently. "And rest. Lots of rest. But she will recover." Word spread fast. By the next morning, 3 more families had come to the ranch asking for Lily's help. By the end of the week, she'd treated a broken arm, a case of food poisoning, and a difficult pregnancy that the drunk doctor had been too incompetent to manage. "You're becoming famous," Pearl teased. "I am becoming useful," Lily corrected. "There is difference." But the healing couldn't fix everything. On the 14th day, the sky turned orange. Cole smelled the smoke before he saw it. Sharp and acrid, carried on the hot wind from the west. He dropped the harness he'd been mending and ran outside. "Fire!" he shouted. "Everyone fire!" The women emerged from their various tasks. Grace from the books, Pearl from the corral, Lily from her herb garden. They all saw it at the same time. A wall of flame crawling across the distant hills, moving fast, moving toward them. "We need to move the horses," Cole said, already running. "Get them to the river. It's the only place they'll be safe." "What about the buildings?" Grace asked. "If the wind shifts, we lose everything. If it doesn't, we might save what matters. Right now, the horses are what matter." They worked in desperate coordination. Pearl knew the horses best, so she led the herd while Cole and Grace herded stragglers. Lily stayed at the ranch, wetting down the buildings with bucket after bucket from the well. The smoke thickened. The air turned bitter. Cole's eyes burned, and his lungs ached, but he kept moving. 20 horses, 25, 30. All of them spooked, fighting the instinct to scatter. "The stallion!" Pearl screamed. Cole spun. Thunder, his best breeding stallion, had broken free and was running toward the fire instead of away from it. "I'll get him!" Cole shouted. "No!" Grace grabbed his arm. "It's too dangerous. That horse is worth more than everything else combined. I'm not losing him." He pulled free and ran. The heat hit him like a physical force. The flames were closer now, eating through the dry grass with terrifying speed. Thunder was panicking, rearing and screaming, trapped between the fire and the fence he'd crashed through. "Easy, boy." Cole approached slowly, hands raised. "Easy. I'm going to get you out." Thunder's eyes rolled with fear. He struck out with his hooves, nearly catching Cole in the chest. I know you're scared, but you have to trust me." The fire roared closer. Cole could feel his skin starting to blister from the heat. "Please, Thunder. Please." The stallion stilled. Just for a moment. Just long enough for Cole to grab his mane and swing onto his back. "Go! Go!" Thunder needed no encouragement. He bolted away from the flames, carrying Cole through the smoke and chaos toward the river, where the rest of the herd waited. They made it. Barely. Cole slid off Thunder's back and collapsed on the riverbank, coughing so hard he thought his lungs might come up. Grace was there immediately, hands on his face, checking for burns. "You idiot!" she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You could have died." "Didn't, though." "That's not funny." "I know." Cole caught her hands, held them. "I'm sorry. I couldn't let him burn." "A horse, Cole. You risked your life for a horse." "He's not just a horse. He's the foundation of everything I'm building here. Everything we're building." Grace went still. We. Cole met her eyes. "This isn't just my ranch anymore, Grace. It's ours. Yours and mine and Pearl's and Lily's. I'm not fighting just for myself anymore. I'm fighting for us." The fire burned for 3 more hours. They watched from the riverbank as flames painted the distant hills orange and red. But the wind shifted, turned the blaze away from the ranch toward the empty wilderness where it could burn itself out. By nightfall, it was over. They rode back to find the buildings untouched. Lily had done her work well, soaking everything so thoroughly that even the sparks that landed fizzled out. The damage was minimal: a fence destroyed, some grass burned, nothing that couldn't be rebuilt. "We did it," Pearl said, wonder in her voice. "Together." "Together," Cole agreed. That night they ate dinner as a family. No one said the word, but everyone felt it. 4 people who'd been broken by life finding each other by accident and choosing to stay by design. "I want to tell you about Margaret," Cole said quietly. The women looked up from their food, waiting. "We were married for 3 years. She was the best thing that ever happened to me. Kind, funny, stronger than anyone I've ever known." Cole's voice caught. "When she got pregnant, we were so happy. We had plans. We were going to fill this house with children, build something that would last for generations." "What happened?" Grace asked gently. "The baby came early, too early. There were complications." Cole closed his eyes. The doctor couldn't save them. Either of them. "I held Margaret while she died, and I promised her I'd keep going. But I don't think I really did. I think I just stopped. Let the world keep moving while I stayed frozen. And now—" Cole opened his eyes, looked at each of them in turn. Grace, fierce and brilliant. Pearl, strong and loyal. Lily, gentle and wise. "Now I want to keep my promise," he said. "Really keep it. Margaret would have loved you all. She would have wanted this. A house full of life instead of empty rooms and silence." Grace reached across the table and took his hand. "Then we honor her," she said. "By living, by building, by becoming the family she wanted you to have." Cole squeezed her hand. Couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. Something had shifted. Something fundamental. They weren't just survivors sharing space anymore. They were becoming something new. Something that had no name but felt more real than anything Cole had experienced in 4 long years. The next morning brought trouble they should have expected. Silas Blackwood rode onto the property just after dawn, flanked by 6 men instead of the 2 he'd brought before. His face carried the satisfied smile of someone who believed he held all the cards. Cole stepped onto the porch rifle, already in his hands. "You're not welcome here, Blackwood." "That's no way to greet an old friend." Blackwood dismounted slowly. "I've come to make you an offer. A very generous offer." "I'm not interested." "You haven't heard it yet." Blackwood pulled a paper from his coat. "I've been doing some research. Turns out those indenture contracts I sold you aren't as legally binding as I thought. Chinese Exclusion Act says those girls shouldn't even be in this country, which means they're not workers, they're criminals." Cole's blood ran cold. "And I happen to know a federal marshal who'd be very interested in hearing about 3 illegal Chinese immigrants hiding on a ranch outside Silver Creek." Blackwood's smile widened. "Unless, of course, you'd be willing to sell them back to me. For the right price." "They're not for sale." "Everything's for sale, Brennan. You just haven't found your price yet." Blackwood stepped closer. $5,000. That's more than your ranch is worth. Take it, walk away, and I promise you'll never hear from me again. And if I refuse, then I contact my friend the marshal. Those girls get arrested and deported. You get charged with harboring illegal immigrants. Everyone loses." Blackwood spread his hands. "I'm offering you a way out. A profitable way out. Only a fool would refuse." "Then call me a fool." Blackwood's smile flickered. "You're bluffing." "Try me." The standoff held for a long moment. Then Blackwood nodded slowly. "All right, you want to do this the hard way. Fine." He mounted his horse. "I'll give you 1 week to reconsider. After that, I make the call. And when those girls are dragged off in chains, remember that you could have prevented it." He rode away with his men. Cole watched until they disappeared, then turned to find Grace standing in the doorway. "You heard?" he said. "I heard." Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "He's right about the law. The Chinese Exclusion Act makes it illegal for us to be here. We have no protection. We'll find protection. How you're one man against the law. I'm one man who isn't giving up." Cole set down the rifle. "We'll find a way, Grace. I don't know how yet, but we'll find a way. And if you can't, if Blackwood makes that call, then we run, disappear, start over somewhere else. You would lose everything. Your ranch, your home, your reputation. I'd lose things." Cole took her hands. "Things can be replaced. You can't be replaced." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you keep fighting for us?" "Because you're worth fighting for. Because Margaret would have wanted me to. Because somewhere in the last 2 weeks this stopped being about what's right and started being about what I want." "What do you want?" Cole looked at her. Really looked. This woman who'd come into his life through accident and stayed through choice. Who'd challenged him and changed him and made him want to be better than he was. "I want you," he said. "I want all of you. I want to build something together that lasts. I want to wake up tomorrow and know you'll be there. I want to stop being alone and start being part of something." "Cole, I know it's too fast. I know we barely know each other, but I've spent 4 years feeling dead inside, and you made me feel alive again. That has to mean something." Grace was silent for a long moment. Then she stepped closer, so close he could feel her breath on his face. "In China," she said softly, "marriage is practical arrangement. 2 people agree to build life together. Love comes later, if it comes at all. Is that what you want? A practical arrangement?" "I want partner." Grace placed her hand over his heart. "Someone who will fight for me and let me fight for him. Someone who sees me as person, not property. Someone who makes me believe that maybe after everything happiness is still possible. I can be that person." "I know." Grace smiled through her tears. "I think maybe you already are." Cole kissed her. Gently at first, then deeper. A promise sealed without words. Behind them, Pearl and Lily watched from the window. Pearl was grinning. Lily was crying. "Finally," Pearl muttered. "Shh." Lily elbowed her. "Let them have their moment." The moment ended when hoofbeats sounded again on the road. Different this time. Faster. More urgent. Lucy appeared riding hard, her face white with fear. "Cole," she screamed. "Cole, you have to hide them now." "What's wrong?" "Blackwood didn't wait a week." Lucy pulled her horse to a stop, gasping for breath. "He sent a telegram this morning. The federal marshal is coming. He'll be here by sundown." Cole's heart stopped. "How do you know?" "The telegraph operator is sweet on me. He showed me the message." Lucy was crying now. "Cole, they're going to arrest them, all 3 of them, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." Grace's hand tightened on Cole's arm. "Then we run," she said. "Like you said, we disappear." "There's no time," Lucy sobbed. "They're already on the road." Cole looked at the woman he'd just kissed. The woman he'd just promised a future. The woman he was about to lose. "Then we stand," he said, "and we fight." "Fight how against federal law?" "I don't know yet." Cole turned to Grace. "But I'm not losing you. Not now. Not ever." In the distance, dust rose on the road from town. Someone was coming. The dust cloud grew larger. Cole counted the seconds, calculating distance and speed. They had maybe 10 minutes before whoever was coming reached the ranch. "Inside," he ordered. "All of you, now." "Cole, we can't just hide," Grace protested. "If they search, they won't search if they don't have reason to. Lucy, you stay out here with me. If it's the marshal, we tell him the women left 2 days ago. headed north toward Wyoming. You want me to lie to a federal officer? I want you to save 3 lives. Cole pushed Grace toward the spare cabin. Go. Don't come out until I say it's safe. Grace hesitated. For a moment, Cole thought she'd refuse. Then she nodded once and ran, pulling Pearl and Lily with her. Cole grabbed his rifle and walked to the edge of the property. Lucy stayed beside him, her hands twisted together with fear. The riders emerged from the dust. 2 of them. Cole's heart stuttered when he recognized the badges. Mr. Brennan. The lead rider was a hard-faced man in his 50s, weathered by decades of frontier law. I'm Marshal James Whitfield. This is Deputy Carson. We're here on official business. What kind of business? We received a report that you're harboring illegal Chinese immigrants on your property. Whitfield dismounted slowly, his eyes scanning the ranch. 3 women specifically, brought here approximately 2 weeks ago. Whoever reported that was wrong. Cole kept his voice steady. There were some Chinese workers here briefly. They left a couple days ago. Left for where? North. Said something about work in Wyoming. I didn't ask questions. Whitfield studied him. Cole felt the weight of that gaze, the years of experience reading lies and spotting deception. Mind if we look around? Actually, I do mind. Cole shifted his stance. This is private property. You need a warrant to search it. I can get a warrant. Then get one. Until then, you're trespassing. The deputy's hand moved toward his pistol. Whitfield stopped him with a gesture. Mr. Brennan, let me be straight with you. Silas Blackwood filed an official complaint. He claims you won 3 Chinese women in a poker game and are keeping them here against their will. Now I don't know what really happened, but I'm obligated to investigate. Blackwood's a liar and a human trafficker. He's angry because I beat him at cards and he wants revenge. That may be, but the Chinese Exclusion Act is federal law. If those women are here illegally, I have to take them into custody. And do what with them? Deport them back to a country where they have nothing. Send them to some detention facility where God knows what happens. That's not my concern. My concern is the law. Cole felt Lucy tense beside him. Felt the weight of every decision that had led to this moment. They're not here, he said again. You can search if you get a warrant, but you won't find anything. Whitfield was quiet for a long moment. Then he remounted his horse. I'll be back tomorrow with that warrant. If those women are still on your property when I return, I'll arrest them and charge you with obstruction. Think carefully about your next move, Mr. Brennan. The marshals rode away. Cole didn't move until they were completely out of sight. They're coming back, Lucy whispered. What do we do? I don't know. Cole, I said I don't know. The words came out harsher than he intended. He took a breath. I'm sorry. I need to think. Grace emerged from the cabin before he could gather his thoughts. Her face was pale but composed. We heard everything, she said. Through the window. I bought us time, not much. Maybe until tomorrow. Then we leave tonight. Grace's voice was steady. We pack what we can carry, and we disappear before the marshal returns. And go where? Anywhere. North, south, it doesn't matter. What matters is, we stay free. Pearl and Lily had followed Grace out. Pearl's jaw was set with determination, but Lily was shaking. I don't want to run anymore, Lily whispered. I'm so tired of running. I know, May. Grace took her hand. But sometimes running is surviving, and surviving is all we have. No. Cole stepped forward. Running isn't the only option. What else is there? You heard the marshal. The law says we shouldn't exist in this country. There's no fighting that. Maybe not fighting, but maybe working around it. Cole's mind was racing. The law says Chinese immigrants are illegal. But what about Chinese citizens who are legally protected? What do you mean? Marriage. The word fell into the silence like a stone into still water. If you marry an American citizen, you become protected under different laws. The Exclusion Act has exceptions for spouses of citizens. Grace's eyes widened. You would do this, marry someone to save them from deportation. I'm not talking about marrying just anyone. Cole took her hands. Grace, I was going to wait. Give us time to know each other better. But time is something we don't have. Cole, marry me. Tonight. Before the marshal comes back. Cole's voice cracked with emotion. Not because it's convenient. Not because it's the only option. Because I want to build a life with you. Because these last 2 weeks have meant more to me than the last 4 years. Because losing you would break something in me that's just starting to heal. Tears streamed down Grace's face. You cannot marry all 3 of us. No. But if we can protect you, maybe we can find a way to protect Pearl and Lily too. Dr. Lin might know people. Families who would be willing to help. We'll figure it out. We always figure it out. This is crazy. This is love. Cole pulled her closer. I know it's fast. I know it's not how these things are supposed to happen. But I've spent 4 years feeling dead, and you made me want to live again. That's not something I'm willing to give up without a fight. Grace looked at Pearl and Lily. They nodded, both of them crying now. Say yes, Pearl urged. Say yes, and let us worry about ourselves. But, Grace, Lily's voice was firm despite her tears. You deserve happiness. You've taken care of us since the ship. Let someone take care of you for once. Grace turned back to Cole. You're sure, absolutely sure. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Then yes. Grace laughed through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Cole kissed her hard and desperate and full of promises. When they broke apart, Lucy was already moving toward her horse. I'll get Reverend Mitchell, she said. He owes me a favor. I'll have him here within the hour. Lucy, wait. The town can go hang itself. Lucy's eyes blazed. My brother is getting married, and I'm going to make sure it happens. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me. She rode off before anyone could stop her. The next hour was chaos. Pearl and Lily raided their supplies to prepare food. Cole dug out his best clothes, the ones he'd worn to Margaret's funeral and hadn't touched since. Grace had nothing suitable, so they improvised, wrapping her in a white cotton shawl that Lily had embroidered during her recovery. When Reverend Mitchell arrived, he looked nervous but determined. Lucy explained the situation, he said, dismounting slowly. I won't pretend I understand everything that's happening here, but I understand love when I see it. And I understand desperation too. You'll perform the ceremony. I'll perform it, but I want you to know what you're getting into. The Reverend's eyes were kind but serious. This marriage will make you a target, Mr. Brennan. The law may still find ways to separate you. The town will definitely find ways to make your life difficult. I know the risks, and you're willing to accept them. Cole looked at Grace, at her dark eyes and fierce spirit, and the way she'd transformed his empty house into a home. I'm willing to accept anything if it means keeping her safe. They gathered in the main cabin. Pearl and Lily stood as witnesses. Lucy held flowers she'd picked from the roadside on her ride back. The setting sun painted everything gold through the windows. Dearly beloved, Reverend Mitchell began, we are gathered here in the sight of God to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. The words washed over Cole like water. He heard them, responded to them, but his focus was entirely on Grace. On the way, her hand trembled in his. On the tears she kept blinking back. On the small smile that crept across her face when he said, I do. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Reverend Mitchell closed his Bible. You may kiss the bride. Cole kissed her gently. The room erupted in applause and tears. Pearl actually whooped, the sound so unexpected that everyone laughed. Congratulations! Reverend Mitchell shook Cole's hand. I'll file the papers first thing tomorrow. Official and legal just like any other marriage. Thank you for everything. Thank me by being happy. The Reverend smiled. Both of you, for as long as you can. After he left, they sat down to a wedding dinner that consisted of whatever food they'd managed to scrape together. It wasn't fancy, but it didn't need to be. They had each other. To Cole and Grace, Lucy raised a glass. May your marriage be long and happy, and may everyone who doubts you choke on their own judgment. Lucy! Lily gasped. What? It's a wedding toast. I'm allowed to be aggressive. They laughed, ate, talked about nothing and everything. For a few precious hours, the threat of the Marshall and Blackwood and the hostile town faded into the background. Then Pearl looked out the window and went pale. Someone's coming. Cole was on his feet instantly, rifle in hand. How many? I can't tell. It's too dark. But I see torches. Torches. Not the Marshal then. The Marshal would come in daylight with proper authority. This was something else. Everyone stay inside. Cole moved toward the door. Lucy, there's a rifle under the floorboard by the stove. You know how to use it. Daniel taught me. Good. Protect them. Cole, don't go out there alone. I won't be alone. Cole looked at Grace, his wife. The words still felt strange and wonderful. I've got everything I need to fight for right here. He stepped onto the porch as the riders emerged from the darkness. Silas Blackwood sat at the front. Behind him, at least a dozen men carried torches and rifles. Some Cole recognized from town. Others were strangers. Hired muscle, probably. Men who'd do anything for the right price. Evening, Brennan. Blackwood's smile was ugly in the torchlight. Heard you got married tonight. Congratulations. Get off my property. I don't think I will. Blackwood dismounted slowly. See, I've been thinking about our little problem, and I realized that waiting for the Marshal is too slow, too many complications, so I decided to handle things myself. You're making a mistake. The only mistake was yours, thinking you could humiliate me at cards and get away with it, thinking you could take what was mine and make it yours. Blackwood's voice hardened. Those girls belong to me, Brennan. I don't care what papers you've filed or what rings you've exchanged. They're my property and I want them back. They're not property. They never were. The law says different. The law is wrong. Blackwood laughed. Listen to him, boys, the great defender of Chinese virtue. He stepped closer. Last chance. Hand them over and I'll let you keep your ranch. Refuse and we burn everything you own to the ground. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? Blackwood gestured to his men. These gentlemen are very motivated. Some of them lost family in the railroad accidents caused by Chinese workers. Some of them lost jobs to cheap Chinese labor. They don't need much encouragement to see justice done. Cole's mind raced. 12 against 1. Maybe 2 if Lucy joined the fight. They'd lose. They'd lose everything. But he'd rather lose everything than lose Grace. You want them? Cole raised his rifle. Come and take them. Blackwood's smile faded. Light it up. The first torch flew toward the barn. Cole shot it out of the air before it landed. The second came from a different direction. He couldn't stop them all. Cole! Grace burst from the cabin before anyone could stop her. No, stop, I'll go with you. Grace, get back inside. If I go with him, he leaves the rest of you alone. Grace ran toward Blackwood. That's the deal, isn't it? You want me. You can have me. Just leave them. Grace! Cole abandoned his position, chasing after her. He didn't see the man who stepped out from behind the barn. Didn't see the rifle butt until it connected with his skull. The world exploded into pain and darkness. When he came to, he was on his knees in the dirt. His hands were tied behind his back. Blood ran down his face from a gash above his eye. Grace knelt beside him, similarly bound. Her shawl was torn, her face bruised. Someone had hit her. "Ah, you're awake." Blackwood crouched in front of them. "Good. I wanted you conscious for this part. If you hurt her..." "You'll what? You're in no position to make threats, Brennan." Blackwood stood. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm taking all 3 girls. You're going to watch. Then we're going to burn your ranch to the ground as a warning to anyone else who thinks they can interfere with my business. The marshal will hear about this. The marshal will hear that a tragic fire destroyed the Brennan ranch. All occupants perished. Very sad." Blackwood shrugged. "Witnesses will confirm it. That's the nice thing about having friends in town." From inside the cabin, Cole heard Lucy cry out. Then Pearl. Then silence. "Bring them out," Blackwood ordered. His men dragged the 3 women into the clearing. Lucy was fighting kicking and scratching. Pearl had blood on her knuckles, suggesting she'd gotten in some good hits. Lily was barely conscious, supported between 2 men who looked like they'd been in a bar fight. "Lily!" Grace screamed. "What did you do to her?" "The little one tried to stab one of my boys with a kitchen knife." Blackwood sounded almost impressed. "Had to teach her some manners." Cole strained against his bonds. The rope cut into his wrists but didn't give. "Let them go," he said. "Take me instead. I'm worth more as a hostage than 3 Chinese women. My ranch, my horses, my connections in Denver. You can have all of it." "Cole, no." Grace struggled against the men holding her. "Don't. I don't want your ranch." Blackwood's smile was cruel. "I want you to suffer. I want you to watch everything you care about be taken from you. And then I want you to die knowing you couldn't save any of them." "You're insane." "I'm a businessman. There's a difference." Blackwood turned to his men. "Load the women in the wagon. We're leaving in 5 minutes." "Wait." The voice came from the darkness beyond the torchlight. "Wait, damn you!" Hoofbeats. Fast and hard. Getting closer. A rider emerged from the night, pushing his horse so hard it was foaming at the mouth. Cole's heart stopped when he recognized him. Sheriff Thomas Wade. "Blackwood!" The sheriff pulled his horse to a stop, his rifle already drawn. "What in God's name do you think you're doing?" "Sheriff, this isn't your concern." "The hell it isn't." Wade dismounted, his eyes taking in the scene. Cole bound and bleeding. The women held captive. The torches and armed men. "This is assault, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder, all in my jurisdiction. These are illegal immigrants. I'm exercising my legal right." "You don't have any legal rights." Wade's voice cracked like a whip. "I just came from the telegraph office. Got a response from the governor himself. Those marriage papers Reverend Mitchell filed legal and binding. Grace Chen is now Grace Brennan, a legal citizen of the United States. You touch her, and you're committing a crime against an American." Blackwood's face went white. "That's impossible. The papers couldn't have been processed that fast." "They were processed because Lucy Brennan rode to the governor's mansion 2 days ago with affidavits from Dr. Lynn Reverend Mitchell and half a dozen other respected citizens." Wade's smile was grim. "She's been planning this since the moment she found out her brother was in love, and she's smarter than you'll ever be." Cole looked at his sister, still struggling against the men holding her. Lucy's eyes met his, and despite everything she smiled. "Surprise?" she whispered. "This changes nothing." Blackwood's voice was desperate now. "The other 2 are still illegal. I have rights. Your rights ended when you tied up American citizens and threatened to burn their property." Wade raised his rifle. "Now release everyone and surrender, or I start shooting." "You can't take all of us." "No, but I can take you." The sheriff's aim didn't waver. "Your men might kill me, but you'll be dead first. Is your revenge worth your life, Blackwood?" The standoff stretched. Cole could hear his own heartbeat, could see Blackwood calculating odds, weighing options. Then slowly the businessman's shoulders sagged. "Stand down," he told his men. "Cut them loose." The bonds fell away. Cole caught Grace as she collapsed against him, sobbing with relief. Pearl immediately went to Lily, checking her injuries. Lucy ran to her brother's side. "You planned this," Cole said, still dazed. "All of it." "Not all of it. The marriage was your idea." Lucy's voice was shaky but triumphant. "I just made sure it would count." Sheriff Wade was already handcuffing Blackwood, reading charges in a flat professional voice. The other men had scattered, disappearing into the night like the cowards they were. "This isn't over," Blackwood snarled as Wade pushed him toward his horse. "I have connections, lawyers, money. I'll be out of jail by morning." "Maybe," Wade shrugged. "But Mrs. Patterson's daughter almost died because you delayed medical care to the women who saved her. Mrs. Henderson's cousin lost everything in a business deal you orchestrated. And Tom Garrett's wife just found out about the money you embezzled from her family's estate." The sheriff smiled coldly. "Turns out you've made a lot of enemies in this town. They just needed someone to remind them." Blackwood was still screaming threats as Wade rode away with him into the darkness. Cole stood in the clearing holding his wife, surrounded by the people who'd become his family. His face throbbed where he'd been hit. His wrists burned from the rope. His ranch had almost been destroyed. But they were alive. They were together. And they were free. "It's over," Grace whispered. "Is it really over?" "For now." Cole kissed her forehead. "And tomorrow, we'll figure out how to make it over forever." Pearl was supporting Lily, who was starting to come around. Lucy was crying and laughing at the same time. The torches had burned down to embers. "I think," Lily said weakly, "I would like to sleep now." "Sleep sounds good," Pearl agreed. "Best idea anyone's had all night." They limped toward the cabin together. A family forged in fire and danger and impossible circumstances. A family that had chosen each other and fought for each other and survived. Grace paused at the door, looking back at her husband. "Cole, yes, I love you." The words came out soft and certain. "I know I said I didn't believe in that kind of love, but I was wrong. I love you, and I'm glad I married you, and I'm never letting you go." Cole smiled. The first real smile in 4 years. "I love you too, Grace. More than I thought I could love anyone again." They went inside together, closing the door on the night and all its dangers. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The marshal, the town, the complicated question of what would happen to Pearl and Lily. But tonight, they had each other. And that was enough. Morning came with the smell of coffee and the sound of voices Cole didn't recognize. He woke with Grace in his arms, her warmth pressed against his chest, and for a moment he didn't remember why his face hurt so badly. Then everything came rushing back. "Stay here," he whispered, extracting himself carefully. "I'll see who it is." He grabbed his rifle and stepped onto the porch, squinting against the bright summer sun. Dr. Lin stood in the clearing, surrounded by at least a dozen people. Chinese families Cole had never seen before. Men, women, children, all clustered together like they were waiting for something. "Dr. Lin?" Cole lowered the rifle. "What's going on?" "Mr. Brennan." The doctor stepped forward, his expression serious but warm. "We heard what happened last night. The whole town heard. And we've come to help." "Help with what?" "With everything." Dr. Lin gestured to the crowd behind him. "These are members of our community. Families who've been too afraid to make themselves known because of men like Blackwood. But after last night, after what you and your wife did, they want to contribute." Grace appeared in the doorway, still wrapped in her torn shawl. Her eyes widened when she saw the gathering. "Yakin." An older woman pushed through the crowd, tears streaming down her weathered face. She rushed toward Grace, embracing her fiercely. "Yakin, we heard. We heard everything." "Auntie Chen?" Grace's voice cracked. "I thought you were in San Francisco." "We came last year, settled in a mining town 20 miles south, too scared to contact anyone." The woman pulled back, touching Grace's bruised face with gentle fingers. "Look what they did to you. Look what you endured." More people surged forward. Pearl was suddenly surrounded by young men and women her own age, all speaking rapid Cantonese. Lily found herself embraced by an elderly couple who looked at her like she was their own granddaughter. Cole stood back watching the reunion unfold. These weren't strangers. These were connections, threads of community that had been hidden out of fear and survival. "I don't understand," he said to Dr. Lin. "Where did they all come from?" "They've been here all along, scattered across the territory, isolated, afraid." The doctor smiled. "But you showed them something last night. You showed them that courage is possible, that standing up for what's right can actually work." "I didn't do anything special." "You married a Chinese woman to protect her from deportation. You faced down armed men to defend people you'd known for 2 weeks. You risked everything for strangers." Dr. Lin shook his head. "That's not nothing, Mr. Brennan. That's everything." Grace broke away from the crowd and came to stand beside her husband. She took his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "They want to help," she said softly. "With the ranch. With Pearl and Lily. With all of it. Pearl and Lily are still in danger. The Exclusion Act is being challenged." Dr. Lin's voice dropped low. "There's a lawyer in Denver, Chinese American. He's been building cases against the act for years, documenting abuses, gathering evidence. He thinks he can help your friends." "A lawyer?" Cole felt hope spark in his chest. "Who is he?" "His name is David Wong. He's been fighting for our people since before most of us arrived in this country. And he's agreed to take Pearl and Lily's case pro bono." "Why?" "Because their story matters. Because what you did matters." Dr. Lin placed a hand on Cole's shoulder. "You're not alone anymore, Mr. Brennan. None of you are." The next few hours were a blur of activity. The Chinese families had brought food supplies, even building materials. They set to work repairing the damage from the previous night, fixing the fence, replacing the barn door that had been kicked in, scrubbing away the blood and chaos. Pearl found herself working alongside a young man named Wei, who matched her strength and stubbornness, pound for pound. By noon, they were arguing about the best way to train horses. By afternoon, they were laughing together like old friends. "I think Pearl has found something," Lily observed, watching from the porch. "Someone you mean?" Grace smiled. "It's good to see her happy." "And you?" Lily turned to study her friend. "Are you happy?" Grace looked across the clearing to where Cole was helping raise a new fence post. He caught her eye and smiled that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. "Yes," Grace said. "I think I finally am." Marshal Whitfield arrived around midday, looking considerably less hostile than he had the day before. He dismounted slowly, taking in the scene with obvious surprise. "Mr. Brennan." His voice was gruff. "I've been told some things that have changed the nature of my investigation." "What kind of things?" "That Silas Blackwood has been running an illegal human trafficking operation for the past 5 years. That he's been bribing local officials to look the other way. That at least 12 women have been sold through his network since he arrived in Colorado." Whitfield's jaw tightened. "I've also been told that you've been trying to stop him from the moment you won those contracts." "I wasn't trying to stop him. I was trying to protect people." "Same thing in this case." The marshal removed his hat, a gesture of respect. "I owe you an apology, Mr. Brennan. I came here ready to arrest innocent women because a criminal told me to. That's not the kind of lawman I want to be." "Then don't be that kind." "I'm trying." Whitfield glanced at the crowd of Chinese families working on the ranch. "I'm also trying to understand how so many people appeared overnight. This isn't exactly a welcoming territory for their kind. Their kind is human beings, same as yours, same as mine." "I'm starting to see that." The marshal put his hat back on. "The charges against your wife have been dropped, permanently. The governor himself signed off on it this morning." Grace appeared beside Cole, her hand finding his automatically. "And Pearl and Lily?" she asked. That's more complicated. The Exclusion Act doesn't have many exceptions. Whitfield hesitated. But I've been told there's a lawyer in Denver who might be able to help. I've agreed to delay any action on their case until he's had a chance to review it. How long? 6 months. After that, I'll have to enforce the law, whatever the law says at that point. Whitfield touched his hat brim. Good luck, Mr. Brennan. Mrs. Brennan, I hope things work out. After he left, Grace let out a breath she'd been holding. 6 months, she said. That's not much time. It's enough. Cole pulled her close. We'll make it enough. The lawyer arrived a week later. David Wong was younger than Cole expected, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and an easy confidence that suggested he'd won more battles than he'd lost. I've read the files, Wong said, settling into a chair at the kitchen table. Pearl and Lily's cases are strong. They were brought here under false pretenses. Their original contracts were fraudulent, and the man who sold them is now facing federal charges for human trafficking. So they can stay? Lily asked, her voice trembling with hope. Not automatically. The law is still the law. Wong spread his hands. But I've been building a case for years that the Chinese Exclusion Act violates basic constitutional principles. I believe I can get an exemption for both of you based on the circumstances of your arrival. What do you need from us? Testimony, documentation, character witnesses. Wong looked around the room at the gathered faces. And patience. These cases take time, but I promise you I will fight for as long as it takes. Why? Pearl asked bluntly. Why do you care about us? Because I was like you once. Wong's expression softened. My parents came here with nothing. They faced the same hatred, the same laws designed to keep them out. But they found people willing to help, people willing to see them as human beings instead of problems to be solved. He nodded toward Cole. People like your friend here. He's not our friend, Grace said quietly. He's our family. The word hung in the air, full and heavy with meaning. Family. Cole felt it settle into his chest, felt it fill the hollow spaces that had been empty for 4 years, not replacing what he'd lost with Margaret, but building something new alongside it, something that honored her memory while moving forward into the future she would have wanted for him. Family, Wong repeated, smiling. Then I'm honored to represent your family, Mrs. Brennan. All of you. The summer stretched toward autumn, hot days giving way to cooler nights. The ranch transformed under all the willing hands. New fences, expanded corrals, a proper addition to the main house so everyone had their own space while still sharing a home. Pearl thrived with the horses, her natural ability earning respect from buyers who came from as far as Denver. Wei visited more and more often, finding excuses to help with training his eyes, following Pearl wherever she went. He likes you, Lily teased one evening. He's acceptable, Pearl said, but she was smiling. Lily found her calling in medicine. Word spread about the young Chinese healer who'd saved the Patterson girl, and soon families were coming from miles around, seeking her help. She couldn't charge them, not officially, but they left gifts anyway. Food, fabric, small tokens of gratitude that filled the cabin with evidence of her value. I feel useful, Lily told Grace. For the first time since my parents died, I feel like I matter. You've always mattered, Grace said. The world just didn't see it yet. Grace herself had become the heart of the family's financial operations. She'd expanded beyond just Cole's ranch, helping other struggling homesteaders organize their books and negotiate better deals with suppliers. Lucy's dress shop was thriving under her guidance, and even some of the townspeople who'd originally shunned them were starting to seek her advice. They're still prejudiced, Grace admitted to Cole one night as they lay in bed together. They still see us as different, but they also see us as useful now, and sometimes usefulness leads to acceptance. Is that enough for you? No, but it's a start. Grace turned to face him. What about you? Are you happy? Cole thought about the question. thought about the empty rooms that weren't empty anymore, the silent dinners that were now filled with laughter and argument, and the complicated music of family life, the grief that hadn't disappeared, but had transformed into something softer, something that allowed room for joy alongside sorrow. "I'm happier than I thought I'd ever be again," he said honestly. "You saved me, Grace. You and Pearl and Lily. You gave me a reason to keep going when I'd forgotten what reasons felt like. You saved us first. Maybe we saved each other." Grace kissed him softly. "Maybe we did." The court hearing came in September, just as the leaves began to turn. David Wong had spent months building his case, gathering evidence, lining up witnesses. Now, it all came down to this: a single hearing in front of a federal judge who would decide whether Pearl and Lily could stay in America. The courtroom was packed. Chinese families from across the territory had come to show support. Lucy sat in the front row with Dr. Lin and Reverend Mitchell. Sheriff Wade had sent a deputy to maintain order, making it clear that any trouble would be dealt with harshly. Cole held Grace's hand as Wong presented his arguments. Constitutional violations, fraudulent contracts, evidence of trafficking, character witnesses who testified to Pearl and Lily's contributions to the community. Mrs. Patterson spoke about how Lily had saved her daughter's life. Tom Garrett's wife, who had finally discovered the truth about Blackwood's embezzlement, spoke about Pearl's kindness to her horses during a difficult time. Even Mrs. Henderson, who had been one of the harshest critics, admitted grudgingly that those Chinese girls had proven themselves valuable members of society. The judge, a severe man named Harrison, listened to everything with an expressionless face. When the testimony concluded, he sat in silence for a long moment. "This is an unusual case," he said finally. "The law is clear that Chinese immigration is restricted. But the law is also clear that fraud nullifies contracts and that individuals brought here under false pretenses may petition for relief." Pearl gripped Lily's hand. Neither of them breathed. "After reviewing all the evidence, I find that Pearl Huang and Lily Wu were victims of human trafficking. Their original contracts were fraudulent, and the man responsible is now facing federal charges." Harrison's voice softened slightly. "I also find that in the time since their arrival, these women have demonstrated themselves to be valuable members of their community. They have healed the sick, contributed to local economy, and shown themselves to be exactly the kind of immigrants this country should welcome." Cole felt Grace trembling beside him. "Therefore, I am granting both women legal residency status under the fraud exemption provisions of the Immigration Act. They are free to remain in the United States indefinitely, with the option to apply for full citizenship after the required waiting period." The courtroom erupted. Pearl burst into tears, pulling Lily into a fierce embrace. Grace was sobbing against Cole's shoulder. Lucy was cheering loud enough to be heard outside. "Order!" Judge Harrison banged his gavel, but he was smiling. "Order in the court. This hearing is adjourned." Outside, the celebration continued. Chinese families who'd been afraid to show themselves were embracing Pearl and Lily openly. Dr. Lin was shaking everyone's hands. Even some of the townspeople who'd come to watch had tears in their eyes. "We did it," Grace whispered. "We actually did it." "You did it," Cole said. "All of you. I just provided the ranch. You provided hope." Grace looked up at him with eyes full of love. "You showed us that there were still good people in the world. That kindness wasn't always a trap. That maybe after everything, happiness was possible." Wei appeared through the crowd, making his way toward Pearl with determination in his eyes. He said something to her in Cantonese that made her laugh and cry at the same time. Then he dropped to one knee. "Oh," Lily gasped. "Oh, he's not." He was, right there in front of everyone. Wei pulled out a simple gold ring and asked Pearl to marry him. Pearl said yes. The second wedding took place a month later as autumn settled fully over Colorado. It was larger than Cole and Grace's hurried ceremony, with the entire Chinese community attending, along with the townspeople who'd come to accept and even appreciate their new neighbors. Lucy had outdone herself with the decorations. Lily had prepared a feast using traditional recipes her grandmother had taught her. Grace had managed the planning with her usual efficiency, making sure everything ran perfectly. Cole stood beside Way as his best man, watching Pearl walk toward them in a dress Lucy had spent weeks making. She was radiant, strong, and fierce and beautiful, transformed from a trafficking victim into a beloved member of the community. "You're getting a good woman," Cole told Way quietly. "I know," Way replied. "I've known since the moment I saw her." After the ceremony, as the celebration continued around them, Cole found himself standing alone at the edge of the gathering, looking up at the stars, thinking about Margaret. She would have loved this. He turned to find Grace beside him, her hand finding his in the darkness. "How do you know?" he asked. "Because you've told me about her. Kind, generous, someone who saw the best in everyone." Grace leaned against his shoulder. "She would have welcomed us, probably made us dumplings, and insisted we stay forever." "She would have." Cole smiled, the grief softening into something almost sweet. "She would have loved all of you. And we would have loved her." Grace squeezed his hand. "Cole, you don't have to choose between honoring her memory and loving us. You can do both. She would have wanted you to do both." "I know." Cole pulled her closer. "It took me 4 years to understand that, but I finally do." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching their family celebrate. Pearl and Way dancing in the torchlight. Lily surrounded by children who adored her. Lucy laughing with Dr. Lin about something. Sheriff Wade, who'd come to pay his respects, talking quietly with David Wong about legal reforms they hoped to see. A community built from scratch. A family forged in fire. "What are you thinking about?" Grace asked. "About how much has changed in 3 months. About how different my life is now." "Any regrets?" "Only that I almost missed this." Cole turned to face his wife. "I spent 4 years hiding from life because I was afraid of more pain. But pain isn't the opposite of love. Emptiness is. And I was so empty before you came. We were empty too." Grace's eyes glistened. 3 broken women running from everything we'd lost. And then you found us. Or we found each other. And now look at us. "Look at us," Cole agreed. A family of 4 that had grown to something larger. A ranch that had become a home for everyone who needed one. A future that stretched out ahead of them, full of challenges and possibilities, and the simple, profound joy of belonging. "I love you," Grace said. "I love you too." Cole kissed her forehead. "Today, tomorrow, and every day after." They walked back toward the celebration together, hand in hand. Behind them, the stars wheeled overhead. The mountains stood silent and eternal. And somewhere, Cole imagined Margaret smiling down at them, pleased that he'd finally learned to live again. He had won 3 women in a poker game. But what he'd really won was something far more valuable. A second chance at happiness. A family that chose each other. A home filled with love instead of silence. He had bet everything on a hand he wasn't sure he could win. And he had walked away with more than he'd ever dreamed possible. Not because he was a hero, not because fate had chosen him for greatness, but because sometimes doing the right thing was reward enough. And sometimes the broken pieces of different lives could fit together into something whole. Cole Brennan had learned to love again, and that made all the difference.